Hello everybody and welcome back to the Tiny Fibre Studio. My name is Bex and this is a channel all about knitting and spinning and occasionally some other crafty stuff, but this episode is particularly knitting and spinning heavy. Welcome back if you've been here before, and if you haven't then welcome. Pull up a chair. I'm doing something today that is a little bit out of the ordinary from what I normally do, which is I am trying to do a kind of podcasty catch-up episode without too many edits. I will explain more in a moment. A couple of things before we begin. I am on Instagram as Tiny Fibre Studio. That is the main place to keep up with what I'm doing outside of podcast episodes. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that for a while now I've had a Ko-fi account, ko-fi account set up, and that basically allows you to contribute, if you wish to the podcast. So if you've learnt stuff from this channel, then if you're able, it would be great if you would support it at Ko-fi. I've put the link in the description. So I mentioned at the beginning that I was trying not to do too much editing. The reason for that is right now I am in the kind of work from home version of my job. My normal job, although it's in technology, doesn't require me to look at a screen for my entire workday. However, my work from home version kind of does. I try and take regular screen breaks, I do all the things you're supposed to do, but essentially I am sitting at my desk, occasionally standing at my desk, and looking at a screen pretty much my entire workday. And what that means is that when it comes to wanting to edit podcast episodes or videos for this channel, I just don't want to do it because I've spent all that time sitting at my desk during the week. Don't really want to have to sit there for another 8 hours editing a video. So I thought I would do this little catch up and we'll see how this goes. If it goes well, maybe we'll do some more of these. So let me know if there's anything that you'd like me to cover in these episodes. But in this one, I just wanted to do a quick catch up on some of the works in progress that I've got, some of the finished objects, and we'll also talk a little bit about some of the videos that I want to get out on this channel. I do have a plan for that. So in terms of the next videos that will be coming up, we've got, I'm trying to think what I've got scripted. I've scripted actually quite a few episodes. The next one will probably be the choosing your first spinning wheel video, which I know I've been promising for a long time now. The problem is every time I sit down to script it, I change my mind about how detailed I want to let it get. Because you can do the non-detailed version, which is basically look for a decent condition secondhand Ashford traditional, done. That's the short version, right? But then you could also go into different, ratios to look for, or, single versus double treadle, or different tension systems. I don't know. So eventually that one will come out. I also have quite a lot of footage recorded for a 51 Yarns episode. Yeah, I know it's been a really long time since I did that. That is the downbreed episode. I've done, I think, 4 or 5 different downbreeds that I've spun. I've just got Southdown to go, which is the originator, so that's a very important one. But once that's done, I'll be able to film some stuff for that, or edit some stuff for that rather. The plan is I've got some time off in March, got some more time off in April, and then again in May. So the plan is to try and get some stuff filmed and then take a couple of days in those weeks off to just get some editing done, and then hopefully kind of stack up a few videos ready for release. So that's where we are with the channel. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. But let's talk about knitting works in progress. So this is the main thing that I'm working on at the moment, which is, let me get the correct side showing, an exploration station. A friend was doing a D-stash said friend shall remain nameless, but I saw this combination and I messaged them and I was like, this seems like it needs to be an exploration station. And they messaged straight back and went, yeah, funnily enough, that's what I bought it for. In actual fact, I think I remember us discussing these options, and they were kind of running it past me and seeing whether I thought it was a good colour combination. So yeah, it's in Blacker Yarns Tamar. Actually, in two of the colours are the ones that I used in my greeny one. I've got one that's sort of a mustardy greeny colour. So the natural and the dark grey are two of the colours that I used on the other one. And then we've got this sort of seafoam green and a nice teal as well. So that is coming on quite nicely. I like exploration stations. Not everybody does, but I think when you're in the initial short rows section, just doing this little bit here, it breaks it up really nicely. So you can just kind of go, right, I'm just going to get to the end of this section, this next wedge. Once you get into things like the brioche, it's a little bit more. You can't get that, or I certainly can't get that done in an evening generally. Depends how early your evening starts and how late it goes, I suppose. But I'm at the end of the brioche section now. So the next one I think it's another 2 colour section. So yeah, it's coming on quite nicely. That will hopefully not take too much longer to get finished. I also have, this one's kind of a failed work in progress. So I had some mill waste that a friend had given me quite a while ago. I think I used it for the tweed episode of 51 Yarns, and I was looking for something to do with it. And I saw Andrea Mowry's Junction sweater. And I thought, okay, that might be an interesting option. So I cast it on. The yarn is roughly, I think, a sport weight. So I cast it on, and this is where I got up to. So it does have quite a wide neck, which is not necessarily my thing. It has a little brioche section at the top, and I then decided to stripe the rest of it because I didn't think that I was going to have enough of the yarn. There's still quite a bit though. So these colours, there's less of this one, a little bit less of the green, but I had very carefully worked out exactly how many rows I could do, or proportionally how many rows I could do of each one. And yeah, I got this far and I stopped and I tried it on and I went, nope. It wasn't working for me. I think it's mostly the striping down here, because you've sort of got vertical stripes with the brioche and then it goes into horizontal stripes, and that just doesn't work for me. And also it was coming up a little bit big as well. So that was the other reason that I ended up not finishing it. It's fine. We'll frog it. We'll try it again. We'll do something else with it. The yarn will get used some way, somehow. Don't know how. But that was not the project for it. So that's a little work in progress that will end up being frogged. What else have we got? Spinning works in progress. Alongside the Southdown, I am also working on spinning up some Corriedale. This is from World of Wool. I'll put the colourway name down here because I can't remember it right now, but it is not their carded Corriedale, it's just their Corriedale top, and I bought tons of the stuff. Why, I don't really know, but I bought tons of the stuff, and I'm just trying to get it spun up really so that it can start to be something. I'm doing this on my Frank Herring my little herring bentwood. And it's just something that if I want to spin in the evenings, I grab this. This is the one that I'm gravitating towards because I don't have to think about it very much. And I tend to find that my pace of treadling on the herring is pretty consistent. So I don't really even have to think too much about the consistency of the yarn itself. It just seems to kind of naturally even out at the same thickness, which is quite nice. So I've got one full bobbin, one is, let's be honest, not even half full. These bobbins can hold a lot, although I haven't weighed exactly how much they hold. So yeah, that's another little work in progress. Let's talk finished objects. So the big one is some socks. So these are from Hilltop Clouds sock blend, which is Cheviot nylon and silk. And I bought this was a mirror dyed rainbow gradient, which I bought a couple of years ago, I think. And what I mean by mirror gradient is that if you imagine that this is the fibre rather than the socks, it started off purple, went to blue, went to green, yellow, orange, etc. and met in the middle at red and then started back the other way. And it did that, so it did that once through the fibre. So what I ended up doing was splitting that horizontally. So I had 2 lots of repeats and I actually had them as separate skeins. And so I got 2 pairs of socks out of it, which was very nice. Hilltop Cloud does do her sock blend in 120 gram braids, which is so nice because it means that you can get a lot out of it. And these are sport weight, so they're not necessarily what I would wear day to day inside my shoes, but they're certainly ones that I will be wearing around the house a lot. And that blend should make it really nice and hard wearing as well. So I'm actually very happy with those. With this pair, I was doing 2 row stripes. And what I did was basically started at either end. So I kind of started with the purple and the red and was just doing 2 row stripes all the way up. Because it was 2 row stripes, you can't do helical knitting with that. So I was just doing the method where you twist the yarn around, the 2 yarns around each other on each row. And then when you switch colours, you just give it a little bit of a tug and it all kind of just cinches up enough to not really have too much of a jog on it, which is quite nice. I think it's done quite a good job. So that is my only finished object so far in 2021. But that's okay. It is what it is. So those are my socks. I do have quite a lot of finished yarns though, finished spinning projects. Let's start with this one. This is, I don't know what fibre this is. I dyed it myself, but it's from the stage where I was really bad at labelling my fibre stash. So I had no idea what the fibre was. And it is a sort of teal gradient, a little hard to see in here, but it will go from this kind of light turquoise and then it goes through the teal and into a sort of dark tealy green. And this has come out at, it's on the heavier end of fingering weight, so it's about 16 wraps per inch. I didn't put my grist on there, which I normally do, that's annoying. 543 meters or 593 yards from 99 grams. And that was chain ply as well. So I was pretty happy with that yardage. For essentially a 3 ply, that's pretty good. So yeah, happy with that one. That will probably end up being some sort of shawl. So that's finished spinning project number 1. Finished spinning project number 2 is this one. This is a big old chunk of John Arbon's Widow Twankey, which I believe is Corriedale, Merino and Zwartbles. I don't know the exact proportions. I tried to find the Instagram post where they announced it, and it just says it's a blend of bouncy fibres, but the hashtags mention Corriedale, Merino and Zwartbles, so that's what I put it on the label as. It is 912 metres or 997 yards, 2,123 yards per pound, so that's the grist. And that was from 213 grams, and it's a 2-ply. So this is again on the heavier end of fingering, kind of veering into sport, so around 16 to 20-ish wraps per inch. And with this one, I think this might be part of a sweater spin. I have another colour in my stash that would, I think, contrast quite well with it. And so the plan is to try and spin this to, or spin the other one to roughly the same consistency and same weight as this one and use them together. I think that was the last spin on my Hanson Crafts Mini Spinner Classic. I might have upgraded to a Pro. And then my final spinning finished object, again, massive chunk of John Arbon again. And this one is their gin and tonic blend from the Cocktails collection. We've got, I worked out this was just about 2,000 yards, just under 2,000 yards. And the yards per pound is roughly around 3,000. Top end of 2,000s to 3,000 in terms of grist. It is a heavy lace weight, and I'm really happy with how that came out. It did feel like it was taking forever to spin just because I was spinning it so thin. But yeah, very happy with it, and that will probably be some kind of garment, sweater, cardigan, I don't know, something along those lines, but it's a little bit too much for a shawl for me. Shawls that take that much yardage are not really something that I would end up wearing, so it is probably going to be more of a garment spin for me. So yeah, that's all of the stuff that I've finished and that's kind of current works in progress. The other thing that I'm working on, grab my tea. The other thing that I'm working on is for fluff to stuff. If you have not come across fluff to stuff before, this is a new thing this year. It's being run by Knitting Expat, so Mina from Knitting Expat, Grace from Babbles Travelling Yarns, and Mars from Hey Brownberry. Mina and Grace, last year or the year before, COVID timescale, things have, I have no idea what the timescale was. I haven't a clue. A couple of years ago, Grace and Mina set up a thing called the SMAL, which was Spin and Knit Along. They've gone with fluff to stuff this year, which I think is much catchier. Love that. And it's basically a year-long spinning and making challenge where you set your own goals, you decide what you want to spin, but there is a focus on planned spinning, so intentional spinning. One of the things that I had been thinking about at the beginning of the year was, what are my spinning goals going to be for this year? You don't have to set spinning goals each year, but I don't know, it was on my mind, and I had particularly been thinking about the fleece stash that I have. So, let's just take some tea a moment before I spill the tea. I have been very honest with you about what is in all of the different cupboards and cabinets in this room. The thing that you haven't necessarily seen is the big bag of fleece that's under my bed. There's quite a bit in there. There's a beautiful merino cross Wensleydale fleece, which is gorgeous, and I really want to do something with that. Whether that will happen this year or not, I don't know, but I need to just prioritise it because it's been there for so long. But the other thing that I started working on is Jacob. So I had a Jacob fleece, and Jacobs are multicoloured. This particular one had very distinct patches of white and dark brown. And then in the areas where the white and the dark brown meet, I kind of stripped those separately from the fleece. And those have already been carded. They were carded years ago. So they'll be quite a nice grey. So essentially I have three colours: a white, a grey and dark brown. So I've spun up some of the dark brown, and this is my little swatch. I like the drape. The drape is lovely. I think I would probably tone down the twist a little bit. I think there's a bit too much twist in there, which is unlike me. There's normally too little. And the plan with this, again, is for it to be a big project. I would like to do some sort of sweater with it. So either a sweater or a shawl or a blanket. Blankets are a slightly touchy subject in this house though. You know, this blanket has giant holes in it where my cat chewed through it, and this isn't even wool. So yeah, I don't know, we might have to rethink the blanket idea. And I want to try spinning another sample, but a little bit thicker. This one was spun with short backward draw. I have another sample that was spun English woolen long draw. So I want to knit with that one as well, see what I think of it. But yeah, that's what I'm making progress on at the moment. If you are interested in taking part in this, I was going to call it the Spin and Make Along in Fluff to Stuff, you can find them on Instagram, Fluff to Stuff 2021. You can also find a group on Ravelry, or if you follow Mars, Mina or Grace, then you will find all their details in the Instagram post there. They have a monthly Zoom meeting. The tickets are charged for, but that money goes back to things like sending out prizes and that kind of thing during the year. And it's not very much. I think it was about £4 or something. So get involved. I think it's really nice to be able to set yourself a little bit of a challenge and just get involved and start making some stuff. So yeah, there you go. That is that's pretty much what I've been up to, really. It's actually feels like quite a lot while I'm sitting here with it surrounding me, but I don't really feel like I've been that productive. I'm sure other people feel the same. So yeah, there you go. A little bit of a catch up. Oh, one other thing before I go. I don't know if anybody else has found this, but it seems that being in lockdown is not particularly good for my wheel acquisition syndrome. I seem to have accumulated a few more wheels in the last 6 months or so, including this one that arrived the other day, which I'm going to show you because I think it's fun and interesting. So this is the Louet S40, and it's one that I've kind of had a little bit of an eye on for a while now because it's small, it's quirky, it's vintage, and I just think it's a fun and unusual design. So this is a direct drive wheel, which means that the black band around the edge of the flyer there is actually the drive band, and that drive band just rubs on the side of the drive wheel, and that is what turns the flyer. It's a bit unusual. It has this huge delta orifice, although small bobbins, and therefore not very good for art yarn. So I don't know, it's an interesting one. I will probably do a full video about it at some point, just because I like kind of showing how different spinning wheels can be, and some of the sort of really quirky ones like this are really interesting to look at. But yeah, this arrived this week, and I thought it was just fun and interesting to show you. So yeah, that's pretty much what's been going on in my life, isn't it, Safi? Oh yeah, apart from obviously having to keep Safi and Dexter entertained, which is always fun. But yeah, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time out of your day to come and catch up with me. It's been fun. I think I've managed to get through it without whittering on too much in an unintelligible fashion. So if this goes down well, I may well do some more episodes in the future. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you found this interesting, useful, entertaining in some way, and I will see you again very soon in another video. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.